We're in the third year of a multi-year high cycle for rabbits, and it's pretty unusual, especially because we just went through a prolonged period where the rabbit cycle was suppressed. They didn't rebound for nearly a couple of decades. It was quite a long time. And while I'm out here looking for and thinking about a place to set a rabbit snare, I'm thinking about the difference between a guest and a steward, or a visitor and a steward. And we have different relationships to land, depending on who you are, where you live, where you're from, and what the culture of your people is. For my people, I would categorize us into guests. We have our mythologies that we bring along with us where we go. These ideas of verdant, untouched wilderness, unpeopled lands, ours for the taking, that we can use to exploit and harvest as we wish. And, that's one perspective that's out there. But all around the globe, we have people who are stewards of the lands that they live in. They have long relationships with those lands. They understand them very deeply. They understand how things are connected, how things are interconnected, how they relate to each other, and really importantly, what they need to thrive, and how to manage those interactions and those balances. So, as I said, we're in the third year of an unusual multi-year cycle of the rabbits, and one of the things that I'm seeing is an increase in lynx tracks in the area, which is nice to see, because they're going to be harvesting these rabbits. And maybe it's come up in other places, but I haven't seen it so much around here, an increase in the lynx populations. So one of the things that happens when rabbits get into a very high cycle is they start overeating their area. The population becomes too big, and then you get a crash in the rabbit populations. And with sustainable, carefully managed harvesting, where you're taking very, very close care of that land, paying very close attention to what's going on, it's possible to manage those populations so you don't get quite the same boom and bust cycles as you do otherwise. Now, everything feeds on rabbits, and so if you can manage a rabbit population in such a way that everything else becomes more sustainable, then theoretically all the other populations are a bit more stable and healthy as well. It's an interesting thing that in areas that are trapped sustainably, sometimes those areas are far more productive because of how those trappers do the ecosystem management. Now, I'm not talking about trapping of the 40s and the post-war era where people just came in, grabbed whatever bit of land they wanted, trapped the heck out of it until it was fully depleted and moved on. That is in no way sustainable harvesting. I'm talking about the kind of harvesting where you're paying really close attention to the signs, to the cues in that area of how these different populations are doing, understanding the relationship between the squirrels and the rabbits and the marten and the lynx and the wolves and the wolverines and everything else. And that you get through cultural teachings, through learning, and through experience, time on the land, and taking the time to do observation. So don't just run out and start setting snares if you come from a culture of visitors. Take the time to really, really get to know that place. Know whose land that is. Know whose land that is traditionally. Know the hunting and trapping regulations for where you are. Move beyond this myth of pristine, untouched wilderness. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist anywhere on the globe. Everywhere on the globe, someone is a steward of that land. Take the time to learn. Take the time to get to know that land. Take the time to get to know the stewards of that land. Maybe they'll teach you. Maybe they won't. Not everybody deserves the teachings that are out there. But don't just rush out. Take your time, learn, and be ethical in what you do in the places where you're thinking about harvesting. Be ethical in the places that you're visiting. You don't just go into somebody else's country and act like it's your own. It's the same on the land. You don't just go onto the land and act like it's your own. Everybody else has a home here too.